And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit. I am your host, Christian. Thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today. And we got another big news week. It was filled with a lot of news that was a little surprising, a little bit. And some news items that have been confirming stuff, and there's been new trailers. It's just a whole brand new week of all movie news. So let's get right into it. Of course, as always, there was a lot of news items that dropped right after I put the podcast up. Of course, last week I was having some problems uploading the podcast, but hopefully this week is different. We do have a few news items that dropped right after I uploaded everything and after everything was said and done. So I'm gonna briefly talk about those the big news items that came out last week. Patrick Stewart is confirmed for the Wolverine 3. Jennifer Lawrence is eyed for the women-led Ocean's 11 spin-off. Back in October, it was announced that there would be another Ocean's 11 movie. At the time, it sounded like it was going to be like a remake, and now this report kind of confirms that it's going to be an actual spin-off, and they're eyeing up Jennifer Lawrence to be a part of the film. The film already has Sandra Bullock set to lead the film, and it looks like she'll play Danny Ocean's sister, at least from the early reports that were said, or reported anyway. Plot will follow her as she tries to steal a necklace, framing a shady gallery owner in the process. And if Lawrence does join the project, she will play Bullock's second in command. Now, the film will be directed by Gary Ross, which, again, if Lawrence signs on, will be a reunion between the two, as Gary Ross, of course, directed the first Hunger Games film. The movie is expected to start shooting this fall. And if that's the case, we'll probably hear more about the project sooner rather than later. And the fact that it's a spin-off, maybe it's just the fanboy in me. Maybe we'll see some familiar faces along the way. Maybe. Again, it's a spin-off. It's not a remake. So we'll see what happens there. The Marvel Cinematic Universe hit a pretty big milestone financially last week. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, which of course began all the way back in 2008 with Iron Man, and of course is dealing with the tremendous amount of success of Captain America Civil War. The Marvel Cinematic Universe and Marvel Studios have hit an impressive financial milestone. Last week they have hit $10 billion in the worldwide box office. With the exception of 2009, Marvel has released at least 2 films a year, and of course has a grand total of 13 films so far. That's pretty impressive, to say the least. Marvel has, of course, come a long way, and of course they've built this platform that has led a trend of other studios creating their own in-house interconnected shared universes, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the podcast. But it's done so much really for Hollywood and for fans. People have been introduced to comic book characters that they've never heard before, and people are having a good time at the theater again. So, I mean, not that they weren't having a good time before the Marvel Cinematic Universe happened, but you know what I mean. So, Marvel Cinematic Universe, $10 billion in the worldwide box office, and it looks like this, the MCU is just going to keep getting stronger, and it's going to keep, going on. So congratulations to them and everyone involved. Finally, one last Marvel tidbit that came out right after we recorded last week, which is a shame that I didn't get to talk about on the podcast because it sounds pretty cool. Michael B. Jordan has joined the cast of Black Panther. And just as we thought that Black Panther couldn't get more and more awesome, he made his debut, the character played by Chadwick Boseman in Civil War, it just keeps getting more awesome and awesome. Ryan Coogler's directing the film. He directed Creed. Coincidentally, he directed Michael B. Jordan in Fruitvale Station and in Creed. Peter Luongo is in talks to join the film. And there's, Martin Freeman might be in the film as Everett Ross, the character that was, again, introduced in Captain America Civil War. Andy Serkis's Ulysses Claw, who was in Age of Ultron. Small little role he had as the arms dealer. He might appear in the film as well. And now we got Michael B. Jordan joining the cast. It's out there. It sounds awesome. Michael B. Jordan is reportedly going to play the villain, although who he's actually playing is under wraps at the moment. Of course, Jordan's made a name for himself so far in Hollywood since he's appeared on TV shows like The Wire and Friday Night Lights. He's also appeared in films like Fruitvale Station, like we mentioned earlier, which is kind of where he got his big break. Chronicle and Creed. He's already signed on to do the Creed 2, and he's going to do the Thomas Crown Affair remake. He's just, he's all over the place. And his star is on the rise, and it's great. There was another report, I don't remember if it was Ryan Coogler or Kevin Feige or one of the producers of the film. Someone at Marvel said, and that was connected to the film, said that the cast of the film would be 90 or 95% African American or black actors. And I thought that was really cool, because obviously, you got the whole whitewashing thing. But at the same time, if we're assuming that this film takes place all in Wakanda, yeah, they're going to be all black actors. But nonetheless, I mean, this is a great cast. Chadwick Boseman already proved himself to be a great T'Challa Black Panther. Lupita Nyong'o is one of those great actresses. She's on the rise. She's awesome. Martin Freeman's great. Andy Serkis is great. Michael B. Jordan's great. The director, Ryan Coogler, I haven't seen Fruitvale Station yet. I've been wanting to watch it, but Creed was awesome. This is a great just move by Marvel and a great ensemble that's going to happen in Black Panther. Now, there was that rumor that came out this week, I believe a couple days ago, that John Boyega, aka Finn from Star Wars: Force Awakens, and there was rumor that he was going to be in part of the film, but it turned out it may not be true. If they got John Boyega in the film, that would have just been, we're done. That's it. Just give us Black Panther now. You're just teasing the fans all over the place, but it's not the case. And now Michael B. Jordan has joined the film, which is great. I mean, Michael B. Jordan obviously is. He also follows the trend of actors who were part of Fox's very bad Marvel films coming to Marvel and doing a better job. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. So there's that. So Black Panther is expected to start filming, I believe, early next year, and will get a release on February 2nd, 2018. So we'll have to wait a while for Black Panther, but it sounds pretty cool. All right, so let's get to this week's news items that came out, obviously, this week. I want to start off with the big one. This is just a rumor, and this is the hugest grain of salt that you should not consume, because it's so big you'll dry yourself out. There was a rumor that came out from the Daily Mail, which, right there, red flags. Let me tell you right now, never take to heart anything that comes out from the Daily Mail, especially when it comes to movies, because a lot of times they're wrong. A lot. They have a bad track record. Also, they like to over-exaggerate things in their wrong reports. Now, there was a rumor that came out that said Daniel Craig turned down over close to $100 million. Now, of course, it's pounds, but here in America, since we don't know anything about the pound system, really, it was close to $100 million that he turned down to play James Bond again. Now, it's just a rumor. Everyone's taking it, just like, oh, he's never going to play Bond again. First of all, consider the source. It's the Daily Mail. Not great. Not even a good or decent track record for them when it comes to news. So, again, that's why it's the biggest grain of salt on the planet that you should not take, because, again, you'll kill yourself. But it does. But I think some people were taking it for real because, of course, the comments that Daniel Craig made when Spectre was coming out, saying that he doesn't want to play the character anymore. Now, if that's you hear that, and then you hear that he turned down $100 million. Now, supposedly the $100 million deal wasn't just to star in the film; it was to give him like sponsorships or something like that, and they were going to give him a producer credit. Nonetheless, that's still, that's obviously a lot of money, and I get that actors want to keep their principles and want to, but I don't think any self-respecting actor would turn down $100 million. Again, this is dollars, and of course the pounds are all different, but that's still a lot of money. But at the same time, you gotta consider the source. So I just want to get that out there because it's just a rumor. There's conflicting reports that maybe he has one more film left on his contract for playing James Bond. So whether he likes it or not, he has to play James Bond again. So we'll see what happens. There's no reports right now. There's nothing really coming out of this out of the James Bond camp that says they're working on another movie. I'm sure they're working on another movie right now, but there's just no news coming out from that. So I just wanted to address that big ass rumor and kind of talk about it a little bit here on the podcast. All right, so let's get to the news items. First of all, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows changes one of its voice actors. Originally, Fred Armisen from Portlandia was set to voice one of the many fan-favorite characters introduced in the sequel, the villain Krang. However, a report from the LA Times says that now there's a new voice actor for the character in Brad Garrett. Garrett lent his voice to other animated films like Finding Nemo and Ratatouille, but he's probably most known for the sitcom Everyone Loves Raymond. So this is just a quick little news item, obviously. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, also they just released, from what I saw, they released a new trailer right now as I'm recording this. They had to stop releasing trailers because, the movie comes out soon. It comes out June 3rd. I just stopped releasing trailers. You're going to just tell us the whole movie at this point. I didn't watch it, but I know it's out there. I'll link it down below, of course, like I do with every podcast. I'll put the trailers down below. This one's a bit ridiculous. I was originally going to open the podcast with this, but I wanted to get that voice one out of the way because it was pretty quick. A Tetris movie is in the works. What? That's right, a Tetris movie. Because why the hell not? The Tetris movie, which is not the official title by the way, was in the works back in 2014, but it couldn't find any funding until now. The project is set to be an $80 million Chinese-U.S. co-production under the new studio Threshold Global Studios, which is by two producers, Bruno Wu and Larry Kasavov. I think that's how you say his name. Apparently, this new studio has been in the works. This new studio has been working with the Tetris company for over a year to flesh out story details to make the film good. To find a story, I don't know. Even more, the plan is to film the movie in China and other locations in 2017, with a Chinese cast featured in the ensemble pick that is billed as a sci-fi thriller. Not only that, producer Kasanoff said that it will be a cool surprise, and that the film will be the first part of a trilogy. That's right. We're looking at a potential Tetris franchise about falling blocks. Maybe it's just, at this point we shouldn't be surprised. There's going to be an emoji movie. Maybe I'm just being too cynical at this point. Look, we all thought that a Lego movie wasn't going to work. And look how well that turned out. Now again, this is not the Lego movie. And I don't think anything is going to touch the Lego movie. But a Tetris movie. A Tetris movie? Really? More power to you if you can make it work. Alright, let's get to some release date news. Insidious 4, which was announced that I somehow forgot to talk about here in the podcast. Insidious 4 will get a new director, has a release date, and will have an actress return as well. The Insidious series, of course, started all the way back in 2010 with the first movie. And it was a pretty successful film in the box office. The second one came out. That was pretty successful. The third one wasn't met with a lot of critical acclaim like the first two. And the third one acted more a little bit like a prequel, which is fine. We don't know if it's going to go the prequel route. We don't know if it's going to go, it's going to kick off after part 2. But Insidious 4 is in the works. Leigh Whannell, who has written all 3 of the films before and made his directorial debut with Insidious 3, will sit out the director's chair this time around. He will now just be writing the film. And the new director, Rob Itwell, he directed the film The Taking of Deborah Logan, which I never heard of. And, if you've heard about that film, then there you go. He will be taking over the director's chair. I guess they liked what he did with that film, and they're going to bring him in. Also returning, besides Leigh Whannell, is Lynn Shay. She, of course, played the lead, pretty much female character in Insidious 3. She played Elise Rayner. She's going to be returning. Again, we don't know how the film... Of course, if you're a fan of the Insidious films, you kind of know who the character is, and you kind of know where, the story is. So, I don't know how they're going to do it. Again, it could be a prequel, it could be a sequel. We don't know. But Insidious 4 will be getting released next year on October 20th, a very timely release. Of course, right in time for Halloween. So there you go. Insidious 4 is in the works for all you Insidious fans out there. It'll be coming out next year, so we'll probably be hearing a little bit more about Insidious 4 in the coming year. So stick right here to the podcast. A U.S. release date has been announced for Transpotting 2. Of course, Danny Boyle's adaptation film of Irene Welsh's novel Transpotting became pretty much an instant cult classic, and it followed the lives of a group of of heroin addicts, and a lot of fans fell for it. A lot of fans. That's not like a bad thing. That was not a bad thing. A lot of fans really liked the film. I don't think I've finished watching it. I think I started watching because when it was on cable, and for whatever reason I didn't finish watching it, so I had to go back and finish watching. But I liked what I saw from what I ended up seeing. So the sequel has been in the works for a little bit of a while now. Danny Boyle teased it. I believe he's been teasing it for a while. He's been teasing it for at least 2 years, and now it looks like they're actually gonna get to it. I think they already started filming, or they're gonna start filming really soon. So the movie takes place 20 years after the events of the first film, and it will bring back the original core cast, and of course probably some new cast members along the way as well. The film is loosely based off the sequel novel called Porno, where it follows the main characters who try to run a successful business in the vice industry making pornographic films. So there you go. The U.S. release date, and I mentioned the U.S. release date because it's actually going to be coming out earlier in the U.K. If I have any international listeners, will be coming out in January next year. But here in the U.S., we'll just have to wait a month. Transpotting 2 is set for a February 3rd release date next year here in the States, and it will kind of take the everybody wants some approach. It's going to get a limited release on February 3rd and start rolling out in a wide release, in the weeks that follow. So you'll be getting, it'll be opening up probably like in 4 or 5 theaters on February 3rd, and then it'll be coming out more and more throughout the month of February. Moving on, Transformers 5 gets an official title and gets a returning star. No, not Shia LaBeouf.
Do it!
The new title for the next Transformers film has been revealed, and it is officially called Transformers: The Last Night. The film will go into production next month in Cuba before it heads back here in the States, Michigan to be more specific, to finish filming. Mark Wahlberg will return, and that's not the person I was talking about, to play his character Cade Yeager. Other cast members include Gerard Carmichael and Nickelodeon star Isabel Moner. Michael Bay is also set to come back to direct, but the returning star that I was talking about, again, not Shia LaBeouf, is Josh Duhamel. He will be returning to the film to reprise his role as Lieutenant Colonel William Lennox from the first 3 films. We don't know what capacity he's going to be in the film, but he will be returning, which is, I have to say, I'm not a fan. I kind of stopped being a fan of the Transformers films. They've just kind of, it's just, it's gotten to the point now where I'm just like, yeah, it's, Transformers is not, a film that I'm going to go and be like, I'm expecting fantastic, A-class, Oscar-worthy acting. No, I'm not walking into that. I'm not walking into the theater expecting that. I'm walking to the theater to turn my brain off, eat some popcorn, and, drink my big-ass soda. But, it's gotten to that point now where it's like, it's not even turning off my brain. It's just numbing myself at that point, because it just, I don't know, I didn't really like the last one. The last one, it felt like the first half, the first act of the movie was pretty good, and then like it just slowly and very quickly started becoming a Michael Bay film where shit just starts blowing up all over the place. Which again is fine. It's what you expect in a Transformers film, and it's what you expect in a Michael Bay film when he's doing these kind of Bay explosions. But it just, I don't know, Transformers gotten to a point where I'm just like, I don't care anymore. I used to be excited when Transformers movie came out, and that stopped happening for me a long time ago. So, and this is just me. I'm not it sounds like I'm bashing on the films, and maybe I am a little bit. But, if you're still a fan of Transformers, I know I have a lot of close friends who are still a fan of Transformers, then great. That this is your franchise, this is what you expect. It's not like we don't know what we're getting into when we go watch Transformers movie. It isn't. We don't know what's going to happen. There's no plot details yet, or lack thereof, as some people will probably put it, for Transformers: The Last Knight. Of course, The Last Knight brings up some questions. Who is the Last Knight? Is Optimus Prime the Last Knight? Is Optimus looking for the Last Knight? There's something I read online that apparently it could refer to the Last Knights of Cybertron from the comics, which are the first Autobots ever created and guardians of the Allspark. But we don't know what route Michael Bay and the writer's room, because now there's a writer's room for the Transformers movies, pop up with. So we'll see what happens. The film, again, it's going to start filming next month. So again, this is another one we'll probably hear a lot more of sooner rather than later. Tyrese Gibson, just want to briefly mention that he's shown interest in coming back. He even posted sad, quote-unquote sad videos on Instagram that Michael Bay himself even put up on his own Instagram page. So maybe he'll come back. Maybe that's just a little tease for the fans to be like, yeah, he's going to come back. Because, Tyrese, he's not happy with his own financially successful franchise in Fast and Furious. He wants to be a part of the Transformers ones too. But we'll see what happens. Transformers: The Last Knight will open on June 3rd next year, so you can look forward to that. Prime summer spot right there, middle of June. All right, let's move on to the next news item.
Do it!
Sherlock Holmes 3 is officially happening, and it may start filming later this year. During the press rounds for Captain America: Civil War, Robert Downey Jr. said that Sherlock Holmes 3 was a possibility, and that he maybe wanted to start filming this year, that they could start filming it this year. Well, it turns out that maybe Robert Downey Jr. was right, because during the press tour for The Nice Guys, which we'll talk about a little bit later on the podcast, Joel Silver said that Sherlock Holmes 3, Joel Silver, by the way, is one of the producers of the film, will indeed happen. It's just a matter of, will it happen this year? Now, he mentioned, that it looks like they could start filming this year, that Downey wants to do it, and they want to do it before he starts filming the Avengers movies, which were formerly called Infinity Wars, but, there's no new subtitle for the film just yet. So he wants, them to come back. They said they have a script that they like, and that Jude Law is available to come back. Obviously, he played Watson. Downey's available. They don't know if they're going to come back and do it later this year. Now, this could be good news and bad news for fans, because good news is if you're a fan of the Sherlock Holmes movies, I personally like the first one better than the second one, then they're going to do another one. However, you'll have to wait a little bit longer, because if they can get the cast to come back and they can get Downey to come in and, film before he has to go off and film Avengers, then great. If not, they're going to have to wait a long time, because the Avengers movies actually start filming later this month in November. Downey doesn't have to report to set until next year, early next year, and it sounds like right after New Year's, because from a comment that Joe Silver made. But it's really quick, and it seems like time is not on their side. So, but Joe Silver, Robert Downey Jr., they're very committed to doing this. It's gonna happen. It's just a matter of when. And Joe Silver also mentioned that he hopes Sherlock 3 isn't the last one, that he actually thinks that they can do more stories out of it. He actually compared the character to Bond in a way, saying that as long as there's a character, we can work with it. It's not an end story. Now, yeah, that's true, but at the same time, again, the first one was met with a little bit more acclaim than the second one. The second one didn't really get that much love, so we kind of have to see what the story is and how the third one is accepted by the fans before you start saying, oh yeah, Sherlock Holmes 4 and 5 are being released a year within each other. That's just not the way to go. But if they can make it work, if they can get everyone riled up and then get everyone involved, good for them. The giant shark movie Meg It just sounds a little bit ridiculous when I say it out loud. Has a new release date, or has a release date. It didn't have a release date before. It has a release date. There's new story details, and has added an international star in Fan Bingbing. Chinese actress Fan Bingbing, who many people will probably know here in the States. If you saw X-Men Days of Future Past, she played the mutant Blink, the one that can open up portals and transport people. So she has joined the film of the giant shark film Meg, which already has Jason Statham attached to star, and it has John Turteltaub, who directed the National Treasure movies, set to direct. So now the film has an extended synopsis from what the original synopsis was before. It follows an international underwater observation program led by Chinese scientists. Is under attack by an unknown danger, and its deep-sea lab lies disabled and trapped at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. With time running out, former naval captain and expert deep-sea diver Jones Taylor, played by Jason Statham, is recruited by Dr. Zhang Suyin, who is the lead oceanographer of the program, for what is likely a suicide mission. Now, we don't know who Fan Bingbing is playing. She may be playing this doctor. She may be playing one of the scientists trapped underneath the ocean. Years before, Taylor had encountered this same terrifying threat, which forced him to abort his mission and abandon half of his crew, resulting in disgrace and dishonorable discharge. Now, Taylor must confront his fears and risk his own life to save everyone trapped below, bringing him face to face once more with the apex predator of all time. Obviously people made fun of the fact that it's Jason Statham literally fighting a giant shark. And which at this point, you know what? Bring it on. I don't care. Let's see it. I think everyone wants to see Jason Statham punch or kick a giant shark in the face. I mean, come on. Really. Come on. We all want to see that. The film has been in the works for a while and even went through a lot of writers and directors. Eli Roth was set to direct the film before he dropped out earlier this year. So we'll finally be getting the giant shark Meg film. It's again, it just sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud. But I don't know, it could be good, Maybe we're in need of, shark films. We have the Blake Lively film, The Shallows, coming out later this summer, and now we have this. Maybe we need giant shark films. Maybe that's the new trend. Maybe that's the new thing. Again, we'll see. Meg will come out March 2nd, 2018. Again, we haven't seen the trailer. We don't know what approach they're taking, but we'll see what happens. Maybe Jason Statham's miscast. I think once we have this perception of Jason Statham just playing like the tough guy, then again we'll just punch and kick someone in the face for looking at him wrong. But we'll see. Don't judge a movie just because it sounds ridiculous. Unless it turns out to be ridiculous, then okay. Andy Serkis' Jungle Book will be a more darker tone version of Disney's live-action film. Now, Jon Favreau's directed, live-action Disney film, The Jungle Book, is enjoying its massive success at the box office, and its fresh rating, from the last that I checked, it was, I think, like a 95. It was in the 90s. I forgot what number. I forgot what number it was. That's if you care about the Rotten Tomatoes. I don't really care about the Rotten Tomatoes rating too much, but it's not the only Jungle Book movie in the works. Warner Brothers is working on their own Jungle Book film that is set for an October 19th, 2018 release that Andy Serkis is set to direct. Of course, Andy Serkis, he did the motion capture for Gollum. He did the motion capture for Caesar in the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes movies. He's just a great actor all around. And he seems like a really fun guy. Seeing interviews of him, he's really passionate about what he does. So we talked about Andy Serkis' Jungle Book movie in the podcast before. Alfonso Cuarón was brought in to kind of help out the production, and the cast includes Christian Bale, Serkis himself, Naomi Harris, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Cate Blanchett. But what will set it apart from Disney's live-action movie is that it's going to be a darker tone. Serkis spoke with Vulture and told them his version is darker and will be a blend of live-action and CGI, and saying that movies these days, I just know what he says, so I'm getting a little anxious, are too cautious when it comes to children, saying it's wrong, and adds that it's great to scare kids in a safe environment because it's important part of development, and we all love to be scared as kids. So we shouldn't overly protect them. Kids are always so sophisticated, and that's why our Jungle Book is quite dark. It's a story of an outsider, someone who's trying to accept the laws and customs of a particular way of living, and then has to adapt to another culture, a human culture, which of course he should be able to adapt to because this is what he is. So it's about two different species and their laws and customs, and neither are entirely right. So he's basically calling kids pussies these days. He's basically just saying, you know what? Kids are pussies. No, I'm sure he's not saying that. But it kind of sounds like he's saying that. And besides the comment of what he said, I think it's interesting. I think it's a great way to go about it. Having two different perspectives of it, and it goes with what has happened in the past. There was two White House movies that came out the same year, and both of them are very different. So we'll see what happens with that. Serkis's movie. Again, we don't know the exact approach of what he's taking, but it sounds cool. It sounds great. I mean, he has a great cast. So both films had great casts as well. So I think it'd be pretty cool to see Andy Serkis's more darker version of the Jungle Book. The Dark Tower adaptation will have some big changes, according to author himself, Stephen King. Stephen King's Dark Tower has been in the works for a while now. Ron Howard was attached to direct for a very long time. Well, not a very long time, but he was attached to direct for a few years until he dropped out. And then, the film bounced back and got a new director in Nikolaj Arcel. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's directing the film, and it's already started filming. They already started filming. I think they started filming this week. And there's some set pictures out there if you want to go, if that's your thing, if you want to go check that out. The film has, of course, Idris Elba playing the lead as Roland Deschain, aka the gunslinger. Matthew McConaughey is set to play the villain, aka the Man in Black. But fans should be weary a little bit, especially with this news item. The film adaptation will apparently change some things around, at least according to the man who created the characters in the world. During an interview with the Entertainment Weekly podcast, Stephen King promised the film would begin as the books does, but then he said it all starts sort of in the middle of the story instead of at the very beginning, which may upset some fans a little bit, but they'll get behind it because it's the same story. Now, I haven't read the Dark Tower films, and there was another report that came out. I guess, there were some spoilers involved, so I didn't read what the article was. One, I don't want to spoil the movie for myself. And two, I actually want to read the Dark Tower. I read the Dark Tower. I read the first, I think, two stories. Yeah, two stories. And I stopped reading them for whatever reason. And I thought they were great, so I'm going to reread the Dark Tower before the film comes out. So I don't want anything spoiled for myself, but this, little tidbit that Stephen King said, it's interesting. They're going to start in the middle of the story. I'm sure there'll probably be flashbacks and stuff like that. But nonetheless, the fact that the Dark Tower is finally coming out, I think in itself is fine. And Stephen King even says they might introduce some other story points in this film. This film will loosely be based. Or not loosely, it will be primarily based, sorry, wrong choice of words, primarily based on the first novel, The Gunslinger. This said that it's going to start in the middle of the story. And, having other story points introduced in the film that may not, have been in the first novel is fine, because if you want to start a franchise, you don't have to worry about building up these story points later on. Also, again, the fact that there's a Dark Tower movie finally happening. When I first started following movie news, I think I mentioned this last time we mentioned the Dark Tower film on the podcast. When I first started, really following the movie news cycle, the Dark Tower was one of those projects that was always talked about. It was always that thing, like every other week or every month or whatever, there was a Dark Tower story saying it's going to happen, saying it's not going to happen, saying it's delayed, saying that, someone's dropped out, saying that someone might be coming in. It was always one of those movies that was always talked about. And I think it was last year or something like that, where it was like, yeah, the Dark Tower is no longer happening. And then you get this story, it's like, yeah, no, it's happening. And it's I'm just happy that we're getting a Dark Tower movie, and I'm happy with the cast. Idris Elba's great. Matthew McConaughey playing a villain is awesome. Abby Lee, she was in Mad Max Fury Road. She's playing the female lead. Jackie Earle Haley's in the movie. He's playing a vampire leader. Or Fran Rans, I think that's how you say his last name. I don't actually know. He was in Cabin in the Woods. He played the stoner. He will be playing. He's in the movie. He's playing the right hand man to not Jackie Earle Haley. He's playing the right hand man to Matthew McConaughey's character. Catherine Winnick, if you watch the show Vikings on History Channel, she's gonna be in the movie. Everything just. The cast is great. Again, I haven't seen Vikings, but I hear it's a good show, and I hear she's good in it. So, what we're hearing so far, what we're seeing so far from the Dark Tower, it's making me excited because I liked what I read from what it was, but I'm also just really happy that this movie's finally getting made because there were so many false starts, there were so many delays, and now it's finally happening. I'm glad. So, Dark Tower will be coming out on February 17th, 2017. So, we'll be seeing it next year, which I'm really, really happy about. We talked a little bit about interconnected shared universes earlier on the show, and I mentioned I was going to talk about it later on the show. Well, we finally come to that point. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Universal Pictures are planning a Robert Ludlum cinematic universe. If you're tired of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on the big screen, well, too bad.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Hollywood Reporter is reporting that Johnson has teamed up with Universal Pictures and writer James Vanderbilt to create a series of interconnected films based on the works of the best-selling author Robert Ludlum, aka the man who wrote the novels that the Jason Bourne films are based off of, which is already a massive success over at Universal Pictures. The cinematic world will start with Johnson leading the film The Jansen Directive. The Jansen Directive has been in the works at the studio since 2011. And I barely remember reading about this when it first happened. But Johnson apparently has been attached to the project since 2014. But nothing ever actually happened because Johnson was so busy. I mean, he's a lot busier now. But Johnson will star as a former operative who is now a world-famous security consultant. When he takes on a job to rescue a kidnapped noble, his life is thrown upside down after the mission goes horribly wrong, and he's charged with the victim's death. No word on how the world will be interconnected or how Johnson's Jansen will factor in. But hey, it's The Rock, and it's Ludlum, who is a great writer. So who cares? Maybe? Question mark? Who cares? Universal has been trying to bring Ludlum spy thrillers to the big screen for a while. I mean, they've obviously done it with the Jason Bourne movies, and there's no word of this if these movies will be connected to the Jason Bourne movies, or if it's just going to be its kind of own thing that they're doing. So there's no word on that just yet. We'll probably be more sure once Jason Bourne comes out later this year, or once this film starts filming. But Universal has been trying to get the Ludlum spy thrillers on the big screen for a while, and it seems now more than ever this is their best chance. Johnson is one of the biggest stars in Hollywood right now, and he's got a massive fan following, a fan base that will follow him to whatever he's doing. So and the fact that he's attached to this universe, he's already attached to this fantastic, the Fast and the Furious films. Just another universe for him is pretty cool. And this, it sounds pretty cool. Having The Rock in a spy thriller could be really cool as well. He hasn't really done too much of a spy thriller. He's done all these big action films. He was supposed to do Spy Hunter, which is based off a video game, for a long time, and that never happened. That was way back in the day, but that never happened. And again, Johnson is very, very busy. He's very busy. He just finished filming Baywatch. He's got Central Intelligence coming out next month. I'm sorry. He's working on the Jumanji remake. He's got San Andreas 2. He's got the video game adaptation of Rampage. He's got Fast and the Furious 8. And he's just got all these films, in the works, and it's gone into the point where it's like, slow down, dude. You're gonna overwork yourself. Just slow down a bit. I'm not tired of doing The Rock Johnson. I can see him on the big screen anytime I want. I'll go watch any movie the Rock's well, almost any movie the Rock's in. I didn't watch The Tooth Fairy, but he's one of those actors who has a lot of charm, and he's great at self promoting, and he's I like him. I've liked him ever since the WWE and the WWF, as he was a part of originally. But just anything he's in is great, and I think this is another great little franchise of his own. If this is what if he is kind of the big lead of this interconnected universe, so it sounds great. It sounds cool. I'm happy for him, but again, he's doing a lot of films, so maybe Rock just slow down just a bit. All right, let's move on to the next news item. We're talking about some DC news. DC Films has new executive producers. So Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice wasn't met with the utmost positive reaction, to say the least, that Warner Bros. And DC Films probably wanted, but the film was still very successful at the box office nonetheless. Well, it looks like the studio wants to fix some of their problems behind the scenes, as they've made DC Chief Creative Officer Geoff Johns and Warner Bros. Executive Vice President John Berg to co-run DC Films. In other words, DC Films now has their own Marvel Studios president, Kevin Feige. Snyder has been a bit of a, by default, the guy who runs DC Films, or at least runs the DC movies, because he was a director and he, opened up this world of what Man of Steel was, of what Batman v Superman was, of what Wonder Woman kind of looks like a little bit. But it looks like, the studio is kind of removing Snyder from that position and that equation, which many fans kind of wanted after Batman v Superman. And it looks like, they brought in these guys who will lock down their universe and kind of move it and maybe shift it a little bit in their own way, potentially. Now, Geoff Johns has been a part of the DC Films. He had a hand in writing, or I think he had a hand in writing, or story-wise, for Man of Steel. Berg, of course, he's a Warner Brothers executive, so he's been a part of the DC Films schedule for a while. He was a part of Batman v Superman. He had a hand in Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, and the currently filming Justice League Part 1. He's also going to have a hand in the standalone Batman movie that Geoff Johns will coincidentally be co-writing with star Ben Affleck. So they got all these. So they have these two guys who have already been a part of the universe to kind of come in and maybe fix the situation a little bit. Warner Brothers, there was a report that came out, a little, I think it was maybe earlier this month or late last month, that said that they're shifting their executives to being in charge of more, as they call it, genre stems. And they're focusing on big franchises like the DC Comics adaptations, like the Lego movie franchises with the spin-offs and whatever, and the new Harry Potter spin-off series, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. So they're following more kind of these tentpole franchises to kind of maybe not fix up the studio, but at least do something with all the losses they've had recently, and with the essentially backlash of Batman v Superman. Now, Geoff Johns' involvement started earlier this year already. He helped Suicide Squad out a little bit. Johns was involved in the major, as they put it, major additional photography to clear up the third act of the film because it had some issues. So, and this move a little, kind of goes back of what, and this move has been reportedly in the works for a while now. So it's not something that was just like, oh, well, the fans are pissed at Zack Snyder and the fans are pissed at us, let's just, give him the boot. No, that wasn't the case. Or maybe it was. Who knows? That timing is a little odd. It's like, oh, we want Zack Snyder out. Oh, we've had this plan in the works for a long time now. This is not something new. No, I mean, the timing is a little fishy. But if this was what they wanted to do originally, maybe they shouldn't have done it after Batman v Superman. Or maybe they're not liking what they're seeing with the dailies, probably, of Justice League Part 1. Now look, Warner Brothers put a lot of trust in Zack Snyder. Warner Brothers has been very good to Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder has worked with Warner Brothers for a lot of his films. He did 300 there. He did Watchmen there. He did the Man of Steel and Batman v Superman there. He did Sucker Punch there as well. He has a very good relationship with Warner Brothers. So maybe, that relationship is now strained because of what Batman v Superman did. Batman v Superman was plagued with just editing issues, dumb editing issues that could have been fixed if we just went back and were like, yeah, maybe we should move this scene around, or put some of those deleted scenes that apparently make the film better in the final cut. I don't think fans would have cared if it was a 3-hour movie, as long as it was good. But I don't know. We'll see what happens with this move. There was another report saying that, I think it was Johns or Berg, one of them, saying that they are shifting focus a little bit on the films, but we'll just see how this move works. It's just a little fishy that they want to remove Snyder right after Batman v Superman, right after all the fans got really pissed. So let's stick with DC films for a little bit. A pretty big report came out saying that a female superhero / villain group movie involving Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, is in the works. Now again, this is pretty exciting news if they can pull it off. Warner Brothers is developing a film with, again, female heroes and villains, but it will also revolve around Harley Quinn, that will be played by Margot Robbie in Suicide Squad. Now, Robbie is actually attached to star and produce in the film, so it won't really be a Harley Quinn movie, as some reports and some headlines and some websites will have you believe, but she will probably be the primary focus. Now, Hollywood Reporter got the scoop, and while the film is heavily under wraps, they do say that there is a female writer on the film, but won't give a name, or don't have a name, sorry. They also reported that maybe Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, aka the Huntress and Black Canary, could pop up in the film, but that's just early speculation. Now, Robbie was actually the one that pushed for the project to get off the ground. Apparently, she fell in love with some of the characters during her research for Harley Quinn, and she presented the idea to the studio, and the studio was like, yeah, this sounds awesome, let's jump at it. So now this, female-led group film is in the works over at Warner Brothers for the DC Extended Universe, that's what they're calling it. And it will become the second female-centric film following Wonder Woman. And of course, there's reports saying that, DC Films has a leg up on Marvel because they got 2 female. They're going to get the leg up on them because they have a female-led movie in Wonder Woman coming out before Marvel does. And that doesn't really mean much if the movie ends up sucking. I hope Wonder Woman's good. I do, because Wonder Woman has been in the works for a long time. It's one of those films that fans have wanted for again a long time, to use that phrase again. But we'll see. I liked Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman and Batman v Superman. I wish she had done more instead of just being popping up and saying just popping up and just doing her thing. But we'll see what happens. But this idea, again, really cool. If they can pull it off, more power to them. But at the same time, we gotta just hold back a little bit. We gotta hold back and see if Suicide Squad is any good. We gotta see if Margot Robbie's character is any good. Now, Warner Brothers and DC Films obviously have a lot of, they have a lot of faith in Suicide Squad. They already announced a sequel. They already announced this film with Harley Quinn being one of the leads. We just gotta see, for them, because apparently, again, if you believe the reports, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice got a standing ovation from Warner Brothers executives when they first saw the film, and it wasn't received that way by a lot of fans in general. So there's a new Ghostbusters trailer out, but the important thing is Kevin Feige has responded to criticisms of the Ghostbusters film. Now, whether you like the idea or not of a Ghostbusters film, obviously it's very well talked about. I'm still holding on to the film, hoping that it's at least good or at least enjoyable. But Paul Feig, or Feig, how you say his name, opened up in an interview with Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine about the reaction the film has gotten. Now, he opened up by addressing the angry fans, saying, "All I can ask is people either give us a chance or you don't have to see it. I'm really proud of it. I think it's fun. I'm so proud of the cast. I think the cast is good. It's so good, and they stand in the footsteps of who came before them because they're such funny people, but they're different. That's all you really want out of a comedy at the end of the day. It's something different and new, and it's just see great people do it. Feig then addressed pretty much the elephant in the room, addressing the reaction to the first trailer, which was let's just say received in a mixed reaction. Let's just say that. And this is something that I kind of agree with him about. This is what he said. He said, "You get your first bite of the apple watching a trailer. Everyone has a million different ideas of what this movie is going to be. I think a lot of people thought we were going to take the original script and just flip it. So that Melissa was going to be Venkman and that Kate's going to be Ray Stantz, and that you're like, well, no, you would never do that. Nobody knows what we're doing, so it could be anything. For us, we just needed to plant a flag and go, here's kind of how some of the stuff in the movie is." And again, this is something that I think a lot of people forget, and it's something that I totally completely agree with. A trailer is not the movie. Not only that, it's not even the full movie. Everything's taken out of context. You're getting bits and pieces, and comedy films are a bit more usually hard to market because you don't want to give away all the jokes in the trailer. You want to leave stuff for the audience to laugh at when they're watching the movie. Also, comedy films, especially in trailers, are taken out of context because you don't know the joke. You just get the punchline. You don't get the setup. You don't get, maybe it's a lot more funnier when you watch it in the movie theater because, again, of the setup. And he mentioned this too, comedy films being hard to market. He mentioned that his movies are especially tough to market, saying, "My films, for some reason, are really hard to do trailers for because my comedy all comes from context." Just like I was saying, they are really hard to do trailers. I just read that. I just lost my place. Okay, I'm not that guy who likes to do joke, and here's a one-liner. I do have those, but you have to get to know the characters to get to know the characters. You have to settle in with them to get to know their personalities and saying, "Oh, that's funny because that character doesn't normally do this." Now it's true. Kevin Feige's trailers, especially for Spy. The trailer was, everyone was like, "Oh, it's Melissa McCarthy. Okay, there's, this kind of it's gonna be this kind of comedy." Spy was one of the funniest comedies and one of the funniest movies that came out the year it did. I think it was last year or the year before. I already forgot, but it was one of the funniest movies, and the movie was a hell of a lot more funny than the trailers make you believe. I think even the Bridesmaids trailer. I haven't seen Bridesmaid. I know, I haven't seen Bridesmaid yet. Don't stop yelling at me. I remember seeing the trailer, and I remember I was like, oh, it looks okay. It looks, just looks okay. And then everyone was talking about it. Everyone just said it's just balls out funny. So, you kind of have to agree with this. What I was saying, and as he says, comedy trailers are usually really hard because, again, you don't want to give away too much of your punchlines, especially if they're taken out of context, if there is a build up to that punchline. Finally, Feig knows that people are very opinionated, especially on the internet. So he's not bitter, or he's not being too outspoken about what he's saying. He's just, trying to tell people what the truth is. And it's true. I mean, people are very opinionated, especially on the internet, especially about things they hold very dear. And the Ghostbusters is one of those films that people hold very dear to their hearts because it's one of their favorite films. But at the same time, people are just, ragging on it. Again, when the trailer first came out, there were some really nasty things. There were some really sexist things said about the cast, saying, "Oh, it's all women. Why is it all women?" One of the people, and I think you know who I'm talking about, Ernie Hudson. He was very, openly saying that the film doesn't, or the film wouldn't work. And he has a cameo or something like that in this new movie. And he came out later and said he thinks the movie's going to be good. He said he liked what they were doing. How am I supposed to take you seriously if you say you didn't want to do it at first? Now look, everyone has their opinion. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. And I get that. And it should be like that. But at the same time, give stuff a chance. Look, there's all these movie trailers, there's all these movies that we all look at and be like, that movie's going to suck. That movie's not going to be funny. That movie's not going to be good. And then, for whatever reason, we go and give them a chance, and maybe it will come out saying, you know what? That wasn't too bad. You know what? That was pretty good. Is that going to be the case with Ghostbusters? Who knows? I'm still open-minded. I think it's going to be, I hope that it's at least enjoyable. And again, there's a new trailer out, and this new trailer is 10 times better than the first trailer. Now, the first trailer was a bad trailer. It wasn't really that good of a trailer. And even Melissa McCarthy came out and said, yeah, she was confused by that trailer too. The new trailer that we see in that came out, which again it will be linked down below if you want to go watch it, is a lot better than the first trailer. It gives you a better understanding of the story. It's a better trailer overall. And I think maybe if that trailer came out first, there wouldn't have been so much backlash. Now look, I mean, it's, again, I mentioned that there was, some really nasty things said about this movie. They were a little sexist. They were a little mean. They were a little mean-spirited. There were people just very bitter that there was a Ghostbusters movie. It's not a remake. It's its own story. I keep saying Kevin Feige. Paul Feig has said, this is his own story. It's not a remake. It's a reboot of the movie. It's a brand new story. It's new characters, not the same characters. Give it a chance. Just give it a chance. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. Don't be one of those people that's like, oh, it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck. Fine. If you think it's gonna suck, then guess what? Don't go watch it. It's that simple. It really is. I don't understand why people are always like, oh, it's going to suck. And people will tell you, don't go watch it. And they'll be like, no, I'm going to go watch it. Why are you going to go watch it? That doesn't make any sense because you already have a preconceived notion when you sit down in a theater and saying, this movie's going to suck. So all that enjoyment that you can possibly have by watching the movie is not going to hit you. It's not going to be there because you're so hard-headed and stubborn. Yes, I'm saying it. You're so hard-headed and stubborn that you're going to sit there in a movie and you're just going to sulk in your own bitterness because you think a movie's going to suck before you even watch it. A trailer is not the movie. There have been bad trailers for good movies, and there have been good trailers for bad movies. There have been decent trailers for great movies or bad movies. Trailers all around are meant for one thing, to get you in the theater and tease you, and everything's taken out of context because you don't know what's going to land. So stop bitching and stop moaning. And I'm not just talking about Ghostbusters, I'm talking about all movies and all movie trailers. You don't want to go watch it? Guess what? Don't go watch it. Don't watch it because you're going to sit down in the movie theater and you're going to take away a seat from someone that actually wants to go watch the movie, or they're going to sit around you and they're going to feel your negative energy and, they're not going to enjoy the movie either. Why bother paying a ticket for a movie you're not going to go watch, or a movie you're not going to enjoy, or just going to suck and be like, yeah, I told you it was going to suck. We don't need that in a movie theater. We don't need that around. I don't need that around me. You don't want to go watch it? Don't go watch a movie. It's that simple. I got a little heated there. Sorry. All right. And another news item that's pretty cool that's Marvel related is Thor Ragnarok. Some big casting announcements have been announced. It's really, really cool, and they confirmed some stuff that's happened before. So there was a report a while ago that Jeff Goldblum was in talks to join some sort of comic book movie, and he was very tight-lipped about what it was going to be. So it turns out that it's Thor Ragnarok. And or Ragnarok, however, there's a lot of there's different pronunciations that I've heard, but I'm going with Ragnarok. So or Ragnarok, sorry, that's what I was gonna go with. Ragnarok doesn't even sound right. Ragnarok. So they've announced, Marvel Studios has announced its full cast, or the good chunk of the core cast, and they reveal the characters that Cate Blanchett will play. They reveal the characters that Tessa Thomas will play, or the character, I should say. They've added, of course, Jeff Goldblum, like I just said, and they've added Carl Urban, which is really, really cool. So Cate Blanchett will definitely play Hela, and I'll get to the character descriptions in a bit. Cate Blanchett will play Hela. Tessa Thompson will play Valkyrie, which she was rumored to play for a while. Jeff Goldblum will play a character called the Grand Master, and Carl Urban will play Scourge. So let's dive a little bit into all this. Blanchett will play the villain. She'll play Hela, powerful kind of goddess and ruler of a realm of the dead, where she kind of oversees the souls of the people who have not died in battle. And in the comics, there's a storyline kind of where she tries to kind of go and rule over Valhalla, where the people who have died go, leading to, of course, a big battle between, Odin's Valkyrie, as I think they're pronounced, which is this kind of band of warriors that go, which, of course, Tessa Thompson will play one of the characters, Valkyrie. And it's pretty cool. She's playing one of those main characters, and it's it sounds really cool. So maybe we'll see Cate Blanchett kind of battle Tessa Thompson. Who knows? And when it comes to Jeff Goldblum's character, Jeff Goldblum again will play a character called the Grand Master, who is one of the oldest living beings in the universe, and one of the elders who is capable of basically traversing space, time, and dimensions. So it's possible that maybe the Grand Master could appear in other films. When you hear that he can traverse space, time, and dimensions, it kind of, maybe Thor Ragnarok will have some sort of connection maybe to Doctor Strange. Maybe, who knows? In the comics, the Grandmaster also has some connections to Thanos, which in Age of Ultron, there was that scene that of Thor's being where he goes into the pond or whatever, and he sees the Infinity Gems and he knows something's terrible is coming. And of course, Thanos wants the Infinity Gauntlet, which with all the stones, and it's pretty cool. So the Grandmaster actually lost one of his Infinity Gems to Thanos in the comics. So there's that connection there. Maybe the Grandmaster kind of will inform Thor more about what these Infinity Stones or Infinity Gems, I forget what they're calling them in the movies. Maybe he'll tell him more about what those stones are all about, or gems. And finally, Karl Urban, he's playing Scourge. He's kind of one of the more kind of physical antagonists. He's kind of like this really like big guy who's who goes really toe to toe with Thor in the comics as well. And Scourge has been one of those characters. He was rumored to be in Thor: The Dark World, but obviously then come about. So seeing him here is pretty cool, and having Karl Urban play a bad guy again, essentially after this long string of him playing good guys, him going back to playing a bad guy is actually pretty kind of cool. And Karl Urban, in general, even being a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is really awesome. Obviously, all these characters could change. I'm just giving you guys a little bit of background that I've read. Things could change. You never know. From stuff in the comics, obviously people change stuff from the comics all the time, which is fine. But the cast in general itself is awesome. You got Cate Blanchett. For some reason I can't say her name right the first time. Cate Blanchett, Tessa Thompson, Jeff Goldblum, Karl Urban, who I've become a huge fan of. You got, of course, the returning Chris Hemsworth. You got Tom Hiddleston coming back, supposedly for his last time playing Loki. You got Idris Elba coming back. You got Anthony Hopkins coming back. In whatever, if you saw Thor: The Dark World, you kind of know where that kind of left off. So maybe we'll see what kind of happens there. Jamie Alexander and Stellan Skarsgård and Kat Dennings are absent from the cast list, so maybe they won't come back. Natalie Portman, of course, will not be returning. That was already reported earlier. So maybe they're kind of leaving the Earthbound characters off in a way, which is fine, especially with the kind of, if you know your Viking history, Ragnarok is kind of a big deal. It's a kind of a apocalyptic deal. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of take that. I'm kind of disappointed that Jamie Alexander wasn't on the cast list. Maybe she just has a small role at the beginning or something. But of course she's busy with Blind Spot on NBC, and she's probably doing some other stuff, or maybe they didn't ask her to come back. Who knows? But there is that just her being absent is a little it's a bit of a bummer. It's a bit of a bummer, but we'll see what happens. Maybe she just has a small role, so maybe that's why they didn't do it. And basically, this is kind of a new cast list, really, with all the actors I just rambled off. But it will suck if she's not in there. And the Warriors 3 are also not listed on here either. So again, we'll see what happens. There's a new report that this is interesting. Spider-Man: Homecoming, which we haven't talked about in a while, which they're busy at work with that. It may get a star back. Michael Keaton, if you remember, Michael Keaton was in talks to appear in the film as the villain of the movie, which was rumored to be Vulture, and he dropped out. Talks kind of fell through and he dropped out, but it looks like Michael Keaton is back at it. Yes, Michael Keaton is in talks again to star in Spider-Man: Homecoming, and we have just a little bit of confirmation of what's going on. villain-wise. And we know and we understand that maybe the Vulture isn't the only villain. So Michael Keaton is back in talks to join Spider-Man Homecoming. Of course, Tom Holland will be the lead in the movie, playing Peter Parker / Spider-Man. Marisa Tomei will play Aunt May. Zendaya's in the movie. Robert Downey Jr. will also be a part of the film as Tony Stark. But now there comes the word from Joe Blow, saying that Vulture is the main villain in the movie, but he's not the only villain in the movie. According to their sources, Joe Blow's sources, he will be aided by the Tinkerer, who helps Vulture build his suit. Because in the comics, and even in the TV show, in the comics, Vulture, or his real name, I forgot what his real name was already. He builds like a flight harness to make him fly. So the Tinkerer will appear in the film to help Vulture build his suit, but, and this is kind of where Spider-Man Homecoming will kind of start intertwining stuff from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The report says that the Vulture suit would be constructed from recovered Chitauri technology from the Battle of New York from the very first Avengers. Now, this is, as we can go off right now, this is kind of rumor news, but, Vulture has been rumored since the very beginning that this started, and it would kind of make sense that they would bring in kind of a new villain. They don't want to probably, do stuff that they already did before with, the Green Goblin and Sandman and Lizard already. So they want to bring in a new villain. I think Vulture would be kind of cool, and if they build a suit off the Chitauri technology, I think that's kind of cool, because in that, you have not only him appearing in Captain America Civil War, you have the fallout of Civil War, you have Tony Stark in the movie, now you have this villain who is using technology that's already been, established in this universe to do this, to build, the suit that he's gonna, use to take down Spider-Man, and maybe Iron Man, who knows? Maybe Tony Stark will suit up, maybe he'll just be Tony Stark and not Iron Man, who knows? We'll obviously find out as stuff goes on. So this is kind of cool. Michael Keaton's back in talks. Hopefully this kind of works out again, because Michael Keaton in a Spider-Man movie, in any comic book movie again, was a really cool idea, and we'll just hope that this turns out to be true. So Joe Blow does have a bit of they have an okay record with this kind of stuff, and again, it kind of fits with the rumors that we've heard already of what's going on. So we'll find out more. Spider-Man Homecoming will come out in theaters next year on July 7th. Filming is expected to start filming, I believe, later this year. I just don't know when. See what happens, guys. This is pretty exciting. Also, briefly, I want to mention, this is my 10th podcast. 10th. I never thought I'd get this far. Actually, I never thought I'd do a podcast. So saying that means a lot to me. Means a lot to me. Let's take a minute to worship me. No, that sounds so dumb. This is my 10th podcast. It's pretty cool that I've got this far. So, thank you all those who have listened from the very beginning. If you're just listening for the first time, welcome. There will be many, many more to come, hopefully. And yeah, this is my 10th podcast, guys. We've hit a milestone, a mini milestone, but a milestone nonetheless. All right, so let's talk about the movies coming out to this. So that was all the news items at the time of, again, recording this podcast. Obviously, there will probably be some big news item to come out after the podcast goes up, and that's the case. Obviously, you can go check out my Facebook page, facebook.com/moviepits. Link will be down below. All right, so let's talk about this week's releases. So, limited release this week, we have the documentary Wiener. No, it's not about penises. It's a documentary following the disgraced New York Congressman Anthony Weiner and his mayoral campaign, and of course the landscape of today's political landscape as well. So I remember the only reason I laugh is because I remember the Daily Show stuff when it was going down, and John Oliver kind of making fun of the whole situation, and Jon Stewart when he came back. Danger! Talk about danger! Alright, so that's it. The white releases this week are The Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising, follows after the sorority moves in next door, even more debaucherous than the fraternity before it. Mac and Kelly have to ask help from their former enemy Teddy. Seth Rogen, Rose Byrne, Chloe Grace Moretz, Zac Efron, Kirstie Clemens, Selena Gomez, Dave Franco all star in the film. I actually saw Neighbors 2 Sorority Rising last night, and I have to say it was pretty funny. There will be a full-blown written review later on this week, so go check out my written review page down below. You guys can go click that link. It's but just a little brief review on it. It's pretty funny. Most comedy sequels don't really work. They kind of fall into the pitfall of trying to kind of copy or try to capture, the charm or whatever they were doing in the first one, and they kind of just fall flat. Neighbors 2, it was really funny. It's pretty great. The cast is great. They all had great chemistry together, but it does fall a little bit into the same pitfalls a little bit. But there's some nice callbacks which are really funny. But I had a good time. I watched it. It was really fun. There's just some commentary on today's life, and that's how I'll mention it. It was a little bit too heavy-handed for me personally. I felt that at times I was like, okay, I get it. You don't have to keep repeating it. You don't have to keep saying it. But overall, I mean, it was enjoyable. I didn't really know what to expect. I just thought it would be the same movie as the first one. It wasn't really. There was a few same beat for beat moments, but overall, it's pretty good. I don't know if it's better than the first one. I think some people are saying it's better than the first one. But that's for you to decide. Again, it's comedy. Comedy is very subjective. So if you want to go watch it, do yourself a favor, go watch it. The next movie is Angry Birds. You can find out why the birds are so angry when an island populated by happy flightless birds is visited by mysterious green piggies. It is up to 3 unlikely outcasts, Red, voiced by Jason Sudeikis, Chuck, voiced by Josh Gad, and Bomb, voiced by Danny McBride, to figure out what the pigs are up to. The voice cast also includes Bill Hader, Kate McKinnon, Maya Rudolph, Keegan-Michael Key, Tony Hale, Julianne Bell, Hannibal Buress, Peter Dinklage, and Sean Penn. Yes, you heard me, Sean Penn. I don't know who he's voicing, but he's in the movie. Angry Birds looks, I've played the games, obviously, and it's one of those movies where it's like, you probably know what you're expecting. It's a kid's movie, but I'm gonna go watch it. I'm gonna go watch it, and hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's enjoyable. Hopefully it's funny. The movie I'm looking forward more toward this week is The Nice Guys. Directed by Shane Black, he directs a spiritual sequel to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, not an actual sequel, by the way, in case you're wondering, which follows a private eye, played by Ryan Gosling, and an enforcer, played by Russell Crowe, as they try to survive and solve a case of a missing woman, played by Margaret Qualley. I think that's how you say her last name. I could be wrong. And dealing with the mob moving in their operation to LA in the 70s. The film also stars Matt Bomer, Ty Simpkins, David Keith, Rachel Brooks Smith, and Kim Basinger. The movie looks really funny. I'm really looking forward to it. I really hope it's good. It's been a while since I've seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I meant to watch the movie before I went to go watch this, but I'm just gonna let it stand as it is. Again, it's not a sequel to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It's a spiritual sequel to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. So you don't have to worry about watching that before you watch this. It looks funny. It really does. So let's talk about some picks. Now, last week I made predictions that Captain America was of course going to be number 1. Money Monster would be number 2, Jungle Book 3, Mother's Day 4, and Huntsman Winter's War were number 5. I was wrong. Once again. Captain America Civil War was number 1. I got that right. The Jungle Book was number 2, Money Monster was number 3, The Darkness was number 4, and Mother's Day was number 5. I didn't really suspect that The Darkness would pull it out, but it did. It was, again, maybe it was just my area. There wasn't a lot of marketing for it. But good for The Darkness for pulling it out. Money Monster, I was a little surprised, was number 3. I thought it would probably have the star power enough to take the Jungle Book out, but I was wrong. Money Monster, by the way, is a pretty decent movie. It's you want to check that out. Maybe like in the middle of the week. It's definitely one of those movies you'll probably enjoy. You won't be disappointed if you go watch it. It's of course George Clooney, Julia Roberts, directed by Jodie Foster. Tremendous performance by Jack O'Connell in the film, and he plays the guy that holds up the studio. It's a pretty good film. It's pretty good. It has its pitfalls, but at the same time, it's you won't be disappointed watching the movie. So I had a lot of fun watching it. All right, so let's talk about this week's picks. This week is really, really tough. I will be happy being wrong this week because it can really go anywhere. When I started doing the outline for this, I had Captain America: Civil War number 1, but I think maybe, just maybe, it's going to be literally a photo finish. I think at the end of the week. So I made a decision to make the Angry Birds movie number 1 in my picks this week. Captain America: Civil War will be number 2. Neighbors 2: Sorority Rising will be number 3. I'm gonna say The Nice Guys is number 4. I think The Nice Guys will be in the top 5 for sure. I hope it does really well. I hope it surprises me and will probably be number 3. But I think number 4 is where it's gonna go, and Jungle Book will close out the box office this weekend, number 5. Or I could be wrong. Maybe Jungle Book and The Nice Guys switch places, but I'm sticking with the picks that I have. So number 1, Angry Birds movie. Number 2, Captain America: Civil War. Number 3, Neighbors 2: Sorority Rising. Number 4, The Nice Guys. And number 5, The Jungle Book. All right, thank you guys so much for listening to this week's podcast. Hopefully it will be up earlier than it usually is. It's just my fault. It's totally my fault, and processing takes forever too. So thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. It is, let me know what your favorite news item of the week was. What was your most surprising? What was, one that took you by surprise? What movie you're looking forward to this weekend? Once again, we have The Nice Guys, the Angry Birds movie, and Neighbors 2: Sorority Rising. Limited release. There is a documentary of Weiner, Anthony Weiner, that is. And yeah. So that's pretty much it. The trailers will be down below. We have new trailers for Ghostbusters, like I mentioned. There's new trailers for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's a Green Band trailer for Sausage Party, the R-rated animated movie. It's pretty much the Red Band trailer with all the, of course, swearing taking out. And there's like a few brief new scenes as well. It still looks funny. It looks funny as hell. It really does. So Sausage Party, I can't even say it with a straight face. There's a new trailer for that. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's a new Ghostbusters trailer. Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. It is a movie by Ang Lee, and he's using this new technology with a high frame rate, and it looks pretty interesting. It looks pretty cool. There's a new trailer also for the Purge election year. I'm really looking forward to that. That's up there as well. Hopefully by the time this goes up, the new Star Trek Beyond trailer comes out. The new Star Trek Beyond trailer is supposed to come out today, and it hasn't come out yet by the time I'm recording this. So hopefully by the time this goes up, there will be a link down below so you guys can go check that out. Be on the lookout for that as well. Obviously stuff is gonna drop after I put this up, after this is posted. So just go check out my Facebook page at facebook.com/moviepit. Again, there'll be linked down below in the show notes /description area. There'll be a written review of all the films pretty much. I'm planning on watching all the films this weekend. Neighbors 2: Sorority Rising, Angry Birds, and The Nice Guys. There'll be written reviews, for those films up on my WordPress account. Again, the link will be down below. The link will be in the show notes /description area. And yeah, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you guys so much for listening in today. It was a big week. We'll talk about the news items that came out last week after this is up next week. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for listening to this week's podcast. You guys have a safe and fun weekend. And as is probably my new sign off for the podcast, have a good weekend and go watch some movies.